Hello everyone, I'm Christoph Trapp. I'm a content marketer for the last decade or so, a journalist for the last two, and really what I specialize on today is how do we reach audiences, how do we stay in front of them, and how do we connect with the right people. And that's why I want to talk about how do you use LinkedIn to find your next job. If you're not really looking for a job, it can help you to get leads as a salesperson, for example. But at the very least, you can look at how do you optimize your profile in a way that makes it easier for people to find you and the right people to find you and then connect with you. So we'll talk about that. I'll share you some of the tips and tricks that I've used over time here and that seem to work. So let's dive right in. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, ctrapp.online/LinkedIn, right there at the bottom. Kind of hard to point, quite frankly, but connect with me there. That redirects, obviously, or you can just go to LinkedIn and search for my name. If there's any questions, feel free to drop me a note on LinkedIn or ctrapp@gmail.com. All right, so let's start with your profile. First of all, set up your profile with your name, obviously, full name, and I'll walk you through how to set it up step by step. What should you say? What shouldn't you say? And go from there. Really make it relevant to your audience. Now, the right keywords, using the right words is important. So if you are looking for a customer service role, make sure your profile is full of that keyword. Make sure people can find you for customer service and not other things, right? So I'm a content marketer. I'm a digital marketer. So really the people that I want to connect with are people who are looking for content help or who are looking for marketing help. And have those keywords. So if you look at my profile right here on the screen, all those keywords are in my headline. Now, sometimes LinkedIn wants you to put your latest job in there. That's when you see Christoph Trapp at whatever company, or like especially, let's say you lost your job. That's sometimes the latest to be updated. But I would really recommend to keep that more general and really more about what it is that you do. So in my case here, I got some awards in there. I got some highlights. So let's just kind of go through it. Content marketer, digital marketer, B2B marketer, Folio 100 last year. That's a little bit more niche right there. That's really just publishing. But the other three things are they show up in search, and people ask me about them constantly. Who is the source for the top 14? Who is the source for the top 100? Who is the source for the top 40? And I do have links that I can send people, but what it helps me is it establishes me as somebody with expertise in those areas. So just something to keep in mind. If you are a customer service expert or you're really good at customer service, make sure you spell that out. I've been helping customers for 30 years or something like that. And it can be a full sentence. It doesn't just have to be these bullet points. Now let's talk about the picture. So I grew up in Germany, moved to the United States, and I'm now a United States citizen, but I did grow up in Germany until about 95. And if you've ever looked at Germans taking photos, they don't smile at all. And the reason I bring that up is because when I came over here as a foreign exchange student to begin with, they gave us a whole big spiel on how to take a photo for North Americans. And the way you take a photo is you smile with your teeth. And so if you look at my photo there, make sure you have a photo that is pleasant, that shows you in that light. I know sometimes it's not my style to smile. Well, whatever. That's, my recommendation would be to definitely have a good photo that you smile in. I wouldn't recommend a selfie. Even if you have somebody else take a picture of you, straight on, not up the nose, that's always, I mean, that happens more than enough. Every once in a while, if you have a good action shot of you working with customers or working with, like I've used pictures of me speaking before, and they show the scene, that could be okay to use as well. I have seen studies over the years where those action shots help because they kind of show you in action, right? That's why they're called action shots. But it's hard to sometimes see what's in them, so that can be a problem. And that's why I would recommend just a straight-on professional picture of you and put it in there, and then have a good headline. We'll circle back to the premium services that LinkedIn has. So you see the LinkedIn logo on the right there of my profile, and I'll dive into that a little bit further. This is not sponsored by LinkedIn. I don't get any kickback from LinkedIn. I'm just sharing that option with you because I think it's worthwhile. There's a $30 a month option for LinkedIn Premium that gives you some options on applying to jobs, simpler than if you don't have it. So I would recommend to consider that if budget allows. Especially, it is relatively easy to apply for jobs on LinkedIn. The other thing, and this is a little bit lower on the profile. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit here. I think I probably, nope, the screenshot I took doesn't have it. But a little lower than that, you can also turn on a function that allows you to show recruiters and people that are looking for employees to that they know you're open to it. So basically what you do is once you get in there, you click on, there's an edit button, and you tell them what kind of jobs that you're open to. So in my case here, I just basically picked the United States, some specific cities. I live in Cedar Rapids. Some of the cities that are easy to get to from here, or were at least when I set this up. Chicago, Charlotte, Dallas, there's direct flights on American to those cities. So not a big problem commuting there for the right role. And then you check the different boxes. And then at the bottom, it actually tells you what you want to, what you're open to, and people can see it. So it really helps you show up in search. Everything we talk about when it comes to LinkedIn, it comes back to when recruiters are looking to find people for their roles. Yes, hundreds of people are applying to roles currently. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said we had like 200 applicants the week before, 300 applicants the week before, 150 applicants the week before, 180 applicants. It's so with the unemployment rate being what it currently is, that is kind of what's going on. So there is a lot of competition certainly out there. Then when you go down, you have the About section of your profile. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. There you go. And this is interesting to me because a lot of times when we talk about ourselves, right? And what the danger actually is that it's all about us. But it's not about us. It's about the companies. What can we do for the company? How can we help them? And what is the problem we're trying to solve for them? So for example, in my case here, this is my About section. So this is when you scroll on my profile, when you check that out, on ctrap.online LinkedIn /LinkedIn. I'll put it right there and I'll leave it up there for a second. If you want to follow along over there, that'd be fine with me. Just let me know if you connect there that you've watched this video and that's how you saw it. So I'm happy to take your connection. If you don't want to connect, you can also just follow me. But anyway, so a lot of companies, so my About section says, a lot of companies are producing content and campaigns that happen but don't perform. Christoph helps you move your marketing and communications from happening to performing by sharing unique stories more efficiently to reach prospects and retain existing customers. He has run, so then I'm stating the problem that I'm trying to help companies solve. And then I talk about some of the experience, some of the industries I've been, who I am, some of the things I mentioned here earlier. And it's okay to talk about yourself, but make sure you are talking about the problem. And we'll talk about this in a second. This is actually the Story Brand Formulas. And if you want to check that out, J.J. Peterson and Donald Miller, they've written fantastic books about it. If you want to dive deeper into that topic, would highly recommend that. J.J. Peterson was also on the Business Storytelling podcast. If you want to head over to Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, you can listen to his episode. There's also an article on AuthenticStorytelling.net. So we'll dive into that in a moment here. How do you write the content with that in mind? It's not about not talking about ourselves, but at the end of the day, you want to help a company solve a problem. So if you can reiterate what the problem is that they're trying to solve and how you can help them, that's kind of what you're after here. There is a little bit of a debate happening in the social media community. Should LinkedIn profiles be third person or first person? Obviously, I wrote my own LinkedIn profile. I did have somebody edit it at some point, and I don't know if she rewrote anything or not, but she did edit it at one point when it was getting, there was a lot of stuff on there. So I would recommend making sure having somebody who has that skill set to edit, to take a look at your LinkedIn, just even if it's for typos, those kind of things. So let's dive in really quickly, just for a few minutes, into the how to write and how to make sure you find the right story. So the first thing truly is you need to have a character with a problem. So looking for a job, the character with a problem is actually the hiring manager. What's their problem? What are they trying to solve? So when you talk to them, even when you present yourself to them, it cannot be about you. It has to be about what it is that you can do for them, right? It's like basic marketing, but interestingly, a lot of companies and people actually forget about that. And I'm the first to admit, I also forget about that from time to time. But be aware, who is the hiring manager? What are they trying to do? What are their problems, and how can you help them? So of course you have to define that for your own role. And so in my case, I'm a marketer, I'm a content guy. Usually the people I talk to, they are business owners, executives. They're spending a lot of money on content. Sometimes it doesn't perform. Sometimes it's not up to snuff, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I'm addressing with that, the way I wrote that in my LinkedIn profile. So certainly you can do that as well. The next thing is you need meet a guide that can help the character. So that guide, you have to portray that person as being you. Let me show you how I can help. Give examples. Give highlights. We'll get to the rest of the profile here in a minute on the next few images. But show them how you've done it before, how you've been helpful before. When we think about customer service, so I'm thinking about airlines, for example, that are where flight attendants are losing their jobs or whatnot. There is skills that those employees have that they can transfer into other roles. So highlight them, show the character, right? Basically the hiring manager. How you can do that, how you've done it before, and trust me, people do look at LinkedIn profiles. It's certainly that is certainly the case. The next one is have and show a plan. So, how have you done it before? What have you done before? Tell a story tell some highlights in your job descriptions, and have them be relatively specific. And make sure they make sense for the main roles you're going after. The one thing that I think might be good to interject here is there is a little bit of a debate in the human resource area of, is a LinkedIn really like a resume? And here's the thing: I found jobs, and I have found a job where I really don't have a resume. My resume is my LinkedIn profile. In fact, when people ask me for a resume, I literally go to my LinkedIn profile and I just create a PDF. So there's a button on your home page where basically you just create a PDF and you save it, and then I ship that off. It's the same content. It's just formatted differently, and nobody has ever really had a problem with that. So then the next step is make sure you have the right calls to action. Make sure people know that you're available, and that's those things at the top where it says that you're open for positions. I think that's a good call to action. I'm personally not a big fan of looking for my next opportunity because when you say looking for my next opportunity, that's about you. That's not about them, right? And so what I like to do is I just like to have those recognitions up there. What I do, if I'm very specific, I might say something like I help companies do better marketing. I help companies run performance marketing programs, something like that. So that's one way to do that. But if you just put up there, I'm looking for my next opportunity, that's too much about you, in my opinion. So find a way to kind of work around that. The next thing is think about how do you show what success and failure looks like. If somebody doesn't hire you, what does that mean to them? How do they, how can it not work? And how does success look like? So you really have to paint that picture even in your LinkedIn profile. Of course, once you talk to people, you kind of have to back it up to your words and probably deeper stories as people are asking questions, and go from there. But make sure you show them. I've done this before. I've been there. I am an NFL fan. I have been following the Washington Redskins for a long time, and they just hired a new coach, Ron Rivera, a few months ago here. Seems like a lifetime ago now with all the things happening in the world currently. And he said, don't draw me a map if you haven't been there. Same kind of thing here. Think about what have you done, how can you highlight what you've done, and show what the success looks like. So it's just something to keep in mind. Let's move forward and talk about the different areas of your profile. So once you go down, I think, I'm a content guy, so I post a lot of stories, a lot of blog posts to my LinkedIn. You can kind of see them on the top there. They automatically come over from my blog, and then they just kind of appear there. And, I'm not saying you have to do that, but if you do have things you can share, it keeps you in people's timeline. It keeps you engaged with people. And depending on what you share, it can help. But I wouldn't make that a top priority out of the gate. The first step really is to have a well-optimized LinkedIn profile. So the first thing here, when we get to your roles, make sure you have the titles. And so in my case here, Chief Content and Marketing Officer at the Authentic Storytelling Project. And then you have Chief Content Officer, Staymates Communication, VP of Content Marketing and Conversion at MedTouch. And the other thing is make sure you are linked to the company page. So see on the left there how everything has a logo. So that means every company has a page, and my job listing is linked to that. And you want to do that. And depending on what your previous roles were, most companies have those profiles now. You don't want to set one up for your company if you no longer work there. But big companies like American Airlines, Bank of America, et cetera, they all certainly have LinkedIn pages. So make sure you link it so it looks better. Because if you don't do that, then it just looks, it kind of looks like crap, quite frankly, in my opinion. And people will look at that. And then they can also click over and see more about the company if they're not aware of what that company is or who they are, so I would highly recommend that. Then within each area, make sure that you post information about what your role was. What did you do? How did you succeed? Careful not to post anything proprietary, of course, but it is certainly okay to highlight some of the things you've accomplished. Keep them pretty short. If you chose to go with third person on the top of the profile, make sure you stay with third person. If you chose to go with first person, just be consistent at the end of the day. I still prefer third person, but I don't feel really super strongly about one way or the other. So either way works, and they both have advantages and disadvantages. Some companies require you to send them a cover letter, not a cover letter, but a resume in third person. So if you don't do your LinkedIn in third person, you're going to have to rewrite it for your resume. So that might be one reason why you wanted to keep it in third person. So something to consider. The next thing is, so once you have all these roles in there, it is a fantastic way on LinkedIn to actually get people to write you recommendations. And so here I have probably like 100 recommendations. And the way I've gotten there is every time I wrap up a project or I move from one role to another, I ask people to recommend me. And here's the thing. Not everybody will. Not everybody loves me. Not everybody loves you. I know it's hard to believe for us, but ask people to recommend you and thank them if they did, and also sometimes consider writing them a recommendation back. I also hand out unsolicited recommendations. So if I'm seeing somebody I've worked with before in my feed and I really liked what they were doing, I think they're fantastic professional, I might just write them a recommendation based on goodwill, I guess, even though they didn't ask. They can still choose not to show it, but people do look at them, and I've actually had people look at them, and that was like their reference check, I guess. So, and the other thing is too, once you have these recommendations, once you're looking for references, you can just look through them and say, well, who has said what publicly already? And maybe they would make a good reference. Once you have all that set up at the bottom, I don't think I grabbed a screenshot here, but at the bottom, basically, you still add your education, your degrees, any certifications, anything like that. So I've done a bunch of certifications with HubSpot and others. So I put them on there because why wouldn't I, right? Why wouldn't I show off what I've done and share all the different accomplishments. So now let me show you. Once you dive into it here, I have all these screenshots, and we'll see if we can do a split screen just for the heck of it. The next thing is to really also, once you have that set up, to look for jobs on LinkedIn. And that is actually easier. There you go. How about that? Boom. So I don't know if you can even see that on the screen, but the easiest way to find jobs is, first of all, people can actually find you through the keywords. And I thought I'm scrolling through my screen here, and maybe I didn't take a screenshot or I didn't upload it. So every Sunday or so, I get a report from LinkedIn, and it tells me what people were searching for when they found me. And some weeks, it's super inaccurate. It's I don't know, controller. I'm not a finance guy at all. I'm a marketing guy. Some weeks, it's like VP of marketing, chief content officer, content writer, blah, blah, blah. Those kind of things. So that week, it went really well. And once you start getting attention through that little notification that you had on, that certainly helps. So just something to keep in mind as you're doing that. To see how people are finding you. If it's totally irrelevant, don't freak out. Don't necessarily change something in the first week. Just watch it for a few weeks, and like some weeks it's just totally irrelevant for me. But then the next thing is you want to start looking for jobs, and I'm gonna probably easier if I make this a little bigger here for you. That thing right here, if you go to the search bar on the top, this is from the iPad app. Certainly it's very similar on desktop or whatnot. If you go to the top, you can search for job titles. Even if you don't put anything in there, it can actually, it shows pretty good results, honestly. They're not off too far. Every once in a while I get like a CEO role opening in there, and I'm like, why would I get this served to me? But relatively easy to search. But you can type in their customer service. I have some alerts set for content, then by the location. And also on the top, you can set by when it was posted and when it was, how easy it is to apply. So the easy apply, which is that little button 3 listings down, they're by far the easiest to apply to. So I actually had a friend one time who said it takes me like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to apply for every job. Easy apply, you can apply to, 10 jobs in 10 minutes, quite frankly, because you just click that button and it's like a one button click. So, and then you can turn on alerts, bottom right, if you just toggle that. Then what's interesting is once people look at your review, once your application, you actually get an email a lot of times, and that email says so-and-so looked at your application. And I find that very helpful, because here's what I do once I get that email. So if I can tell who looked at my profile, I sent them this email. Thanks for reviewing my qualifications. Would love to hop on a call to see if the role is a mutual fit. Want to book some time here to chat. And so I set up my Calendly. And Calendly, it's free if you only use one meeting type, which I think that's probably would work for anybody. You tie it into your calendar, and then people can book time with you. Now, if you don't have a lot of things going on, there can be downfalls doing that, because, if it looks like you don't have anything ever happening, why would anybody hire you, right? So you have to kind of think about that as well. The scarcity issue, I guess, or problem, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, but that's what I do. And a lot of times people do respond out of the gate. It is one way to actually stand out and stay in front of people. So as some takeaways, make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated, it's optimized, you use the right keywords. You have a smiling photo like this, right? Smiling. Look at the camera. So as you might have seen, it's really relatively hard to look at the camera while you're live. So the camera is actually there, but my screen is over here. But when you take a photo, look at the camera. No selfies, please. Have a descriptive headline so people can find you when they search for certain terms. And I have had that happen. People reach out to me and say, hey, I was looking for somebody in the content field, and your profile looks great, and I was searching for you, and then you can go from there. Also, the LinkedIn Premium for $30 a month, I would recommend it. You can also tell who's looking at your profile, so you can see who is checking you out. Doesn't mean I would reach out to all of them that look at my profile, but it is an option. So if somebody reaches out and they work for a company that you want to work for, or you apply to, chances are they're checking you out for that job. So why not send them a message? LinkedIn Premium does allow you free messages to anybody on LinkedIn. If you don't have that, you can only send messages to people you're connected with. You can certainly connect with really anybody. If too many people report you as sending out milli-vanilli invites, that can be a problem. Then make sure you make it about your future employer. What can you do for them? How can you help them? It should never be about you. It should be about how you can help them with a problem that they actually have. And what's interesting, every once in a while I talk to somebody, and I think I know what their problem is, and then when we dive in, I think I'm answering the question about their problem, but I'm not. I'm talking about something totally different, and I didn't hit the problem. So just, it happens, learn as you go and go from there. And then of course, all the different jobs, I think it's okay to kind of tie it all together. If you had 6 jobs in one company, that's common, I think, today. There's also some various theories out there on, do you put just the year or put each month when you started? I just put the years. That's one way to do it. The other way is to have the months, and then start looking for jobs and apply with your highly optimized, well-optimized, relevant LinkedIn profile. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it gives you a head start into finding your next job. Any questions, feel free to reach out, ctrap.online/LinkedIn. And the Business Storytelling Podcast on there, check that out if you like. I share a ton of content on there on how to tell your story better, how to stay in front of people, how to stay relevant. It's harder and harder and harder because a lot of people are doing it now. Attention spans are shorter, and people make decisions just on the headline. I mean, there was a thing the other day I saw, Dallas Morning News was retweeted by a really big Twitter account, and they reported that hardly anybody clicked over from it. So they weren't reading the article, they were just reading the headline. So the headline matters. Keep that in mind. Any thoughts, questions, comments, feel free to reach out, ctrap@gmail.com, or drop me a text, 319-389-9853. Until next time, thank you for listening.